So yeah, that's right. We've now essentially launched the Starcity Music Youth Lab, which essentially is kind of aimed at 14 to 25-year-olds who are really just trying to navigate the industry. And so what we're doing is we're coming alongside other types of education, and in that we're actually working with various educational institutions and establishments in order to further support their students with learning about music and more importantly, learning about the broader aspects of being involved in the music industry. Too often, I think for young people, it just seems like the only way to get themselves involved is to become a singer or a rapper. And the truth of the matter is that couldn't actually be further from the truth. For every successful singer or rapper that's actually out there or that you may know of, the fact remains that there is an entire team of people supporting that person's career. There's someone else that's earning a salary off of that person's success. And actually that person's success is based off of, several individuals earning a salary, having full-time roles, part-time roles, consultation roles, or even, contractual roles to help support an artist to become as successful as they can be. The more people that are working towards this, essentially, the better the artist will appear to be. And, the more money the artist is making, the more money that is essentially there for the team to, put into their salaries or take home with them. So, what's really important about what we're trying to offer is first of all, the practical skills of actually getting involved with the industry. There is this sense that you need to have a talent to be in this industry, and that is true. I would definitely say that you need to have a natural element to you that is inclined to either create or work in and around music. That being said, this is really about like any other career path. You can work hard, you can earn it, you can climb a ladder. It's just a case of, because it's so elusive, it just seems like unless you become a really successful TikTok rapper, the likelihood of you actually making an income can seem really relatively small. And that's sort of true, but it's also like a real lie. And so part of what we're trying to do is encourage young people to pursue, wherever their skill set kind of takes them within the industry. And so one of the things that we kind of set out from the start is really establishing what it is that this person is interested in, what it is that kind of brought them through the doors in the first place, and then potentially where it is that they want to go. And what we try to do is we try to understand where they want to go and then position alternatives around that, which they may have not even known about. And I will say this as well, certainly in my career, there are jobs that now exist that didn't exist 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. If you take, for example, just the role of A&Ring, for example, most of that role used to be kind of incorporated into one position. You would have the person that scouted, that same person then essentially brings the artists that they've scouted in with other writers or producers that they've often, built a relationship with in order to kind of bring them together. That person then arranges, obviously, the studio time. They arrange the splits between the artist and the producer. They then arrange the contracts. They then arrange the distribution, and essentially that role was one person 20 years ago. Now that's split into maybe 3 or 4 different roles within a label. And so already what we're seeing is expansion in terms of different industry roles in some areas. And of course, we are actually seeing many industry roles sort of fall away as well. And that can kind of be expected. It's not the only industry to experience that by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously it's one that is essentially being heavily impacted by things like AI. And obviously technology in itself is one of the things that has always been synonymous with music. But there is a point where, of course, the accessibility of technology makes it so easy now to make a record that we are essentially, as an industry, kind of devaluing the work. If we look at how many songs, and it's probably in the hundreds of thousands uploaded every single day to various different sites, you can imagine how much content is actually being released now, and so therefore the difficulty of being heard. So when you are now just solely the person who is, the artist or the producer, the creator of that music, you're really limiting yourself to everything else that happens in and around the music industry. And so part of what we're trying to do is widen the perspective of a young person that doesn't necessarily know any better. And it is, like I've suggested, a very elusive industry. There's no real knowing what's what until you really make a commitment to kind of get involved. And obviously what we see is a lot of young people committing to things like educational establishments. Now, they are good, and further higher education training in what you're trying to do is fantastic. And I'll just highlight some of the things which I think are really good about it before I kind of break down some of the issues. Obviously, the first thing is that you will be educated. In theory, your lecturers and your tutors will be people that have got music industry experience, and they will be able to share that with you, and you will learn from that and grow with that and get better. Also, studying in itself, if you're a full-time student, for example, it gives you the actual hours to repeat, learn, repeat, and actually get better. If we talk about like being a master of your craft, we're talking about 10,000 hours. And in theory, that's something that you can work heavily towards at uni or, studying music further. Obviously, secondary to that is the network that you can build. And so that becomes really, really important. The alumni, the connections that you make in the establishment itself, in theory, there are people that are studying with you that will go on to be very successful. And so to have those people, and it could be you, of course, and it should be you, of course, but to have those people as a part of your circle, people you can call on, contact to give you work as well, is just fantastic. And it's like a network that essentially you are paying for, but it's a part of the educational experience. So I do think that it's worth it. And obviously, lastly, the fact that you're able to, they will put you into shows, they will make you write, they will make you create in order to pass, to get your actual credits, to get your actual certificate or whatever. They'll actually make you do work. And so in that sense, you will be creating, and you will be somewhat looking left and right in terms of your peers and competition, if you like, and kind of assess your level and start to know something about it. The only issues that I really have with educational establishments is that the degree itself in music isn't actually worth that much. This is one of those industries where your experience actually outweighs your degree. And what I mean by that is, if you are someone with a master's, for example, in any music subject, but let's say it's a music, commercial music, record production, whatever, you've got a master's, that level of degree in it, and you are applying for a job in a label, let's just say, not necessarily as a creative role, but as someone that is going to be supporting the creative roles, whatever that could be, and there's numerous ones, and you're applying for that role, and you've got, again, more degrees than a thermometer, but your competition has got 5 years of just working in a label. Believe you me, your competition will be taking that job over you. And it's interesting because although your education has brought you so far, what this industry is really looking to pull in is people who have an idea about the future of it. The people that they can entrust the future of it with. And so for you to, and I see this all the time, particularly when I get CVs sent in, is that you see a lot of people saying how their education is the most, it's the most prominent thing on their CV. And in fact, that is pretty much useless when it comes to this particular industry. So one of the things that I certainly recommend alongside educating yourself further is to actually go and get experience, actually go and perform, actually go and create your own sound, your own channel, your own vibe, and do that alongside your education. One of the people that I've had really good relationships with in terms of building his craft is an artist called Songer, and he studied at ACM simultaneously to performing at festivals and building his Instagram brand. And if you know the artist, you'll know that he's a very, very successful rapper. And what I found amazing about him is when I met him at the studying stage, he was just getting on with it anyway. It was as if he knew that although he wanted to further educate himself, learn more, and get a network larger than the one he currently had, he was just doing it anyway. So it wasn't like education and then I'll go and step into finding a career. It's like, actually, these two things are going to run side by side. And so again, partly what we're trying to do through the Youth Music Lab is that we're trying to run these things side by side. Yes, you can be getting educated, but it's also important that you're actually actively getting involved in the industry. And, that comes 1 hour at a time, one session at a time, one gig at a time. There aren't necessarily internships available for everyone, but you can be of assistance to people. And so I'm always saying to, young people that are trying to get involved in the music industry, make yourself helpful. That's the key thing about trying to actually get an opportunity, is to make yourself of assistance to somebody, and obviously we live in a world where people want to get paid, need to get paid, but unfortunately this is the type of industry where your competition has been doing it for free for the last year, and they're waiting for their opportunity for payment. You come in with your privileged self feeling like you should be paid day one, and again, there's nothing wrong with that, but if that's really your position, then this may not be the industry for you, because the fact of the matter is that in order to get paid, you need experience, and in order to get experience, you may not get paid for it. So you need to kind of balance up exactly where it is that you're trying to go and what you may need to do along the way in order to achieve it. Right. So what we're trying to do is align simply education with actually giving people professional skills to go and put into action. And now, just to kind of wrap this up, the last thing that I'll say really is that with anyone that is actually very skilled, very talented as an artist, as a producer, as a creative, one of the key things in order to create a career that is sustainable is to learn how to transfer those skills to the projects of other people, other artists, other producers, other labels, other businesses. Business to business is one of the biggest ways to actually sell your product, to sell your music. And so if you're only trying to sell to a consumer, then you might be struggling. Whereas if you are aware of how to sell your services to a business, then you, again, will go ahead. I always try to deal with contracts as opposed to individuals. Don't get me wrong, individuals are very, very important, and you will find that individuals can service and sustain some sort of income along the way, but contracts kind of give you the breathing space to deliver your services over a period of time, and also to then bring in other contracts. So, and also generally speaking, contracts have an understood amount of money associated with them, and so it's only good principle to kind of have some of those where possible. So I realize I'm kind of jumping around all over the place, but some of these principles are really kind of key. If you can learn them early, then it just means that you're going to essentially do slightly better when you kind of get to where you're going. So to go back to my point, what I was saying was, if you are essentially trying to figure out where you're trying to go, find your position, and you are an artist, you have the creative skill set of a producer, to learn how to transfer those skills into someone else's project can be invaluable. I mean, it really is the way you can make your bread and butter. So for example, you are a skilled artist, or you are a skilled, as I said, producer or songwriter, which is great if you are constantly your own product, but eventually you'll realize that there are other people in this industry who aren't as skilled as you, but would employ you to make their product as good as yours. And so what I always say to people is, like, if you're looking for work and you're looking to actually establish maybe even a salary or something like that, or a contract, then one of the best ways to do it is to just keep going along in your craft, keep sharing your craft as your CV. So every song you do, you want to essentially get more streams on it from a new audience member, but it's far more important that anyone else that might be looking for someone who can write a song, produce a song, sing a song, hears that you are open to work in that sense as well. So it's something that you might want to do, somewhere on LinkedIn, for example, instead of just on your Instagram or TikToks. And again, just to close this point as well, whilst we're just talking about preparedness and getting ready and trying to be seen and noticed in this industry, LinkedIn is a really useful tool. It's not going to just provide you with work overnight, but it's a really, it's like the social media of the workplace, if you like. And so it's the perfect place for you to share your work with your peers who are in the industry, who are then potentially looking for creators or people to produce or facilitate work that they have. So it's a really good way to kind of keep your CV up to date. And I would just say that the LinkedIn is more like a rolling CV for anyone that's trying to get involved in the industry. It can be a space where you just update, your latest release, your latest involvement in a release, your latest gig, your latest whatever. And also, again, business to business, it's a really good space to potentially get gigs at businesses or to sell your services to a business who is looking for, idents for radio, or they're looking for the song to fit their commercial, or, as we know with shows like Love Island and things like that, producers exist and music supervisors exist across LinkedIn and those types of spaces where they are actively looking for music to put out as well. So yeah, I would just say that getting involved in education is really important, but it's not the key to success in this industry. Just getting involved is one of the fundamental things that I say. Obviously, if you are looking at education, there's lots of educational establishments which I would recommend, depending on the type of person that you are. There's different ones which would fit you slightly better. So again, feel free to email us about that, and we're happy to share some of the institutions that we're in touch with and some of the ones which reach slightly further than us. But yeah, mainly just to reiterate, be confident, be genuinely interested, try to be helpful. Your CV is updatable constantly through something like LinkedIn, and what you'll find is with something like LinkedIn is that it's not always got to be you going out. Sources can come in and find you, and so this is really about how prepared you are, how adaptable you are, how willing you are to get involved. I don't believe in working for free forever, but I do believe that when you realize there's an opportunity for you to get involved and to lend your skill to something bigger than yourself that could potentially serve your career later down the line, then I think it's definitely worth doing. My closing statement is I've always seen my career as something like this. You've got sideward steps and you've got upward steps. What I've never necessarily been in control of is my upward steps. And what I mean by that is like promotion, roles with bigger titles, essentially more money coming in through a contract or a salary. Right? I've never really been in charge of that. It kind of comes along as and when, but that's when going along sideways is really important. What you can't do in this industry is stay stagnant. You can't stay still. You can't just sit on your couch expecting the phone to ring, expecting an email to come through. You really have to go and get it. So moving sideways isn't a bad thing. It's just staying active. It's staying responsible for your own craft, your own skill. It's staying adaptable to the times, to AI, to things like that. It's staying focused on new opportunities that might come in, and it's being prepared for upward to happen by again, investing in those 10,000 hours, making yourself a better, more promotion-worthy person. And so when these things find you, and they will, you are more prepared for it. You will more likely smash it, and you will more likely hold on to that position and be able to escalate your career even further from there by being a genuine person with the genuine skills that are necessary, and not someone that lives with this sense of imposter syndrome, and that's a part of it. But really and truly, again, being someone who's solid, willing to work, willing to learn. No one in this industry is just born with it. Don't get me wrong, nepotism features quite heavily, but what I'm saying is like everyone is making it up. This is one of those free, artsy types of industry where there's no right or wrong way to do it. We just have a particularly established current way of doing it, which is being changed constantly by the technology and the evolving nature of our future. So yeah, just get involved, do what you're doing. Obviously, we are here to help and support that. If you have any questions based on where you're at, we're happy to kind of throw some support at you. But the bottom line is that this is not for the faint-hearted. It may not happen overnight. something Central C said, and I'll quote him, that he said at the Mobo Awards for winning the best newcomer is, true say, I'm not a newcomer. You know, and what that means is, although you might look like, oh yeah, you know, you might want it to appear like you're fresh and it's just happened in your bedroom and you were just that talented. The truth of the matter is that people work for years and years and years to arrive at newcomer. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Don't let all of these awards and accolades and thousands of views that other people are getting fool you into believing that you aren't still making steps towards a long and sustainable career. So stay involved, do what you're doing, and yeah, more power to you. If we can help in any way, shape or form, then feel free to hit us up.